Hello, my furniture friends. Welcome back to another furniture rescue. I picked up this Art Deco era waterfall style cedar chest from a local family owned secondhand furniture shop so I could fix it up and get it back into a condition that they'd be able to find it a new home. It's got a lot of damage around the bottom with tons of missing finish and veneer, but I think with a little TLC, we can make this back into a desirable vintage storage piece that will fit into a modern home. These waterfall edged pieces were mass produced, usually more budget friendly furnishings in the 1930s and 40s, and always have these beautiful wood veneers and fun design features over their plywood frames. This chest looks like it's had a rough time, especially around the bottom where the finish is flaking off, the veneer is falling off, and someone's even tried to camouflage things with a wood-toned marker. But the cedar-lined interior and even the original cardboard insert look absolutely pristine. With all of the damage on here, it is definitely going to be a painting project. First things first, we need to give this a thorough clean. So I'm going to spray and scrub each surface down with some simple green to help break up any dirt, oils, or silicone that might be built up on here from furniture polishes over the years. It's really important to get all of that stuff off before any sanding happens because you don't want to be grinding that down into the wood and be stuck with patches that won't hold any new finish that you try to apply. I flipped it over onto its back so that I could get all the cobwebs on the bottom with my vacuum, and then popped a little scrub brush attachment onto my drill to help clean out all the little details on the front trim pieces. Well, I know a lot of the internet is going to be very mad at me, but I am not really a fan of this dragonfly design on the front. So I'm gonna pry this center section off and then get to filling in the wings. I used my painter's tool as a wedge and gently tapped it with my hammer to carefully pop this off. It's just tacked on with 2 pins and a tiny bit of wood glue. Before I crack open my wood filler, I need to glue a bit of this veneer back down. So I took a closer look to see what I could save. It looks like on the right side of the chest, it's already been re-glued at some point. There's a decent crack about 10 inches up the side, and everything below that line is super dry and flaky. The left side isn't quite as crumbly, so I'll glue down what's left over there. And this front trim section looks like it's had a few nails added and there are some missing chunks of wood, so I'm gonna need to rebuild that a bit too. I grabbed a blunt tip syringe and I'm gonna fill it up with some wood glue, and then I can use that to get the glue right up all the way underneath what's loose without doing any more damage. That's clamped up and drying, and on this side, I think I'm going to be better just removing what's not stuck. There's not too much to save over here. Now that that glue is set, I can start mixing up some filler. I'm using this Varathane 2-part epoxy style filler. It's exactly the same as all-purpose Bondo or Bondo wood filler, but the cream hardener that you mix in to activate it isn't blue like the Bondo brand stuff. You need to mix the base putty in the can with a little bit of this white hardening agent that comes in a separate tube. And then you've got about 5 minutes to get it applied before it starts to set up. Once it is set or cured, it's really hard, easy to sand and shape, and should give the bottom edge of this piece a nice new solid surface. I filled in all the little chips and a few other dents that I found, and then I filled in those carved wings on the front, and this should all be ready to sand in about 30 minutes. Since this stuff dries so fast though, you really only want to mix up a little bit at a time so that it doesn't start to set before you get a chance to work with it. Now I'll hook my sander up to the shop vac, grab my desk mask, and I think I'm just going to use some 150 grit to smooth all of this out. It's a medium grit, so it should cut through the filler, but not be too aggressive that it ends up grinding through the rest of this thin veneer. I'm just trying to blend the level of the filler to match the level of the veneer for a nice smooth transition, and then trying to smooth out the scratches and dents on the rest of the finish. But this, I'm not sure if it's shellac or a lacquer finish, is so brittle that it's kind of just disintegrating and turning to dust with hardly any effort and leaving me with pretty much a bare veneer. It's not usually necessary to completely remove the old finish if you're going to be painting, but if it's failing or flaking off anyway, you kind of do need to get that off because your new finish will come off with it as that OG stuff continues to let go. And yes, I do see all of the beautiful walnut wood grain. It's stunning. But the bottom half of this chest, at least, is past the point of no return. So I have made the executive decision that paint is the appropriate choice here. Once I was done with all the sanding, I used a damp microfiber rag to pick up any remaining dust that was on there. And then I cracked open this can of clear shellac that I'm going to use to seal up the wood grain. So if someone wants to expose that walnut again in the future, they'll have a much easier job of it. And it's also going to act as a primer for my paint. I'd definitely prefer to have the spray can version of this right now, but I don't have any on hand. So I've just poured some of this into a little paint tray and I'm gonna roll it on with an old microfiber roller. I think 2 coats should be enough to seal in any wood tannins and kind of close up the grain texture. And I'll leave this to dry for a few hours before I come back to smooth it out and get started on my painting. I'm thinking I want to leave this bottom oak trim exposed, so it's going to need a little bit more sanding to get the rest of the dark finish out of the grooves, and then I'll use some fine 400 grit sandpaper just to quickly smooth out the shellac on everything else. I masked off that piece of oak, laid out my drop cloth, and propped the chest up off the floor on some old paint cans. I also decided to unscrew this lock from the inside so I can just pop it out and not get it all clogged up with paint. And I almost forgot to wrap up this drawer too. I'm on a mission to use up the paint that I already have, so I grabbed these 2 fresh pots out of my cupboard and ultimately decided to go with the dark cast iron this time. It's an off black or super dark gray with some nice warm undertones, and I think it will make this piece easy to fit into a lot of different decor styles in today's homes. Cast iron is pretty timeless after all. I strained about half of the pint into my pneumatic spray gun and added about 2 tablespoons of water to thin it out just a tiny bit, and then gave my gun a good shake to mix it all up. I set the air pressure on my compressor at about 40 psi, turned on my new air filter on the ceiling, tested out my spray settings on a scrap piece of wood, and then sprayed my first coat on this chest. Fusion is an acrylic resin paint that's got really nice coverage and a great durable built-in top coat. It's even UV and water resistant. I've used it to paint a ton of my own furniture pieces, a bathroom vanity, and even a couple of our exterior doors. And I am always blown away by how well it performs. Also, if spraying isn't an option for you, this can definitely be brushed or rolled on too. I left that first coat to dry overnight, and then the next morning I came back and sprayed on my second and final coat the same way, just to fill in any light spots and make sure that I had a nice even finish over everything. My second coat of paint got a good 6-ish hours to dry, and now I can unwrap the drawer. I've decided that I'm not going to top coat this because once this paint cures, it really doesn't need anything else, but I am going to rub it all down with some of Fusion's beeswax finish just to give it a little extra sheen and make the color pop a bit. I don't want to wax or seal up the natural protective properties of the cedar on the inside, but I am going to use this same beeswax to kind of lubricate the sides of the drawers where they glide in and out so that everything moves a little smoother. I replaced the lock, but I am actually going to remove the top latching piece before I send this off so that no one can accidentally get stuck inside this thing. And to finish off this oak statement, I think I want to keep it pretty natural and light against the dark paint color. So this water-based whitewash stain from Behr should do the trick. And once that's dry, I'll wax it the same way. Okay, let's take a quick look back at the chest that sat around at the secondhand store for months with no takers because of its condition issues and outdated design. And here is the fixed up and finished version that I've pulled together. I don't think it's going to have any problems finding a new family to fill it up and take care of it for another lifetime now. Thanks for hanging out with me while I worked on this one. I so appreciate you spending a part of your day here and following along. Make sure you're subscribed for tons more furniture flipping inspiration, tips, and tricks. And leave me a comment and let me know your thoughts on this one. I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day, and I will catch you all next time.